Oh, her warning.
Yeah, this is a girl who says that man
well,
has trouble.
This did happen to me, and it was a he. And I went right ahead and married the guy, and it was Garrett.
Everyone knew Lucille Ball as the fiery redhead who owned television and built a whole empire with I Love Lucy. But behind that bright smile and contagious laugh, Lucille saw a version of Hollywood that would make anyone shiver. Power gave her a front row seat to behavior so twisted it stuck in her mind for years. Before her final days, she revealed the names of 7 actresses, women she swore were truly evil, not on screen, but in real life. Some she worked with, others the world adored, but every encounter left her a little colder than the last. Let's kick things off with Joan Crawford, the Ice Queen herself, the one woman who genuinely scared Lucille Ball. Lucille had dealt with her fair share of dramatic stars, but none shook her like Joan did. The world saw Crawford as the definition of elegance, old Hollywood royalty wrapped in satin and pearls. But Lucille, she saw right through the shimmer. She saw a woman who hid her cruelty behind designer gowns and a perfect smile. Lucille once whispered to a close friend, "All she has is glamour. Underneath is nothing but ice." Their tension exploded in 1971 when Crawford appeared as a guest star on Here's Lucy. The moment Joan stepped onto the set, Lucille swore she could feel the temperature drop. Literally, Crawford demanded the room stay at 68 degrees sharp. Her chair had to face the exact direction she wanted, and the lighting adjusted until it hit her face just right. Lucille didn't complain. She'd seen plenty of diva antics before, but what came next was on another level. A young wardrobe assistant, just 22 years old, brought Joan a dress with the tiniest wrinkle. Instead of simply pointing it out, Crawford exploded. People nearby heard her shout, "You are a useless little nothing! Toilets would be lucky to have you!" The poor girl burst into tears and ran off humiliated. When Crawford demanded that she be fired on the spot, Lucille stood her ground and refused. That moment started a cold war between the two women, one Lucille never forgot. Once the cameras rolled, Crawford transformed completely, smiling, elegant, graceful. But the second the red light went off, she froze again, her expression flat and lifeless. Lucille later whispered, "I've worked with department store mannequins who felt more human." To the public, Joan Crawford was a legend, dripping in diamonds and poise. But Lucille Ball saw what was underneath, the frost, the emptiness, the act. It wasn't just her opinion, it was what she called a diagnosis. Lucille believed Joan didn't feel emotions. She only performed them like memorized lines from a movie. To Lucille, how someone treated those with no power revealed their true soul. And Joan failed that test miserably. Even years later, Lucille still called her truly, unmistakably evil. Then came Judy Garland, the glittering storm of talent, chaos, and heartbreak. Whenever Judy's name came up, Lucille's expression changed instantly. It wasn't hate, it was something heavier, something sad. Judy's pain didn't come from cruelty like Crawford's. It came from a wildness that couldn't be tamed, the kind of chaos that swallowed everyone around her. Lucille had known Judy since their early MGM days. She admired her voice, her spark, that once-in-a-lifetime magic that could light up a stage brighter than any spotlight. But behind the showbiz glow, Lucille saw the heartbreak, the missed call times, the broken promises, and the exhausted crews left trying to hold everything together after Judy disappeared again. Lucille once confided in a friend, Judy was magic, but magic that burned the stage down. Everyone remembered Lucille Ball as the fiery redhead who ruled television and built an empire with I Love Lucy. But behind that laughter and glamour, she witnessed a Hollywood few ever saw, one full of twisted power plays and icy hearts. The fame gave her a front row seat to behavior so dark, it haunted her for years. Before she passed, she didn't hold back. She named 7 actresses she called truly evil, not on screen, but in real life. Some were her co-stars, others the world adored, but each encounter left her shaken and scarred. We've already talked about Joan Crawford, the Ice Queen who froze every room she walked into, but Lucille's stories didn't stop there. Next on her list was Judy Garland, the glittering storm of talent and heartbreak. Judy wasn't cruel the way Crawford was. Her darkness came from chaos, wild and uncontrollable, the kind that dragged everyone around her down. Lucille had known Judy since their old MGM studio days. She adored that voice, that charm, that rare spark that could make a whole room glow. But she also saw what fans never did, the mess behind the magic. Missed call times, broken promises, endless delays, and exhausted crews who had to fix the chaos she left behind. Lucille once confided to a friend, Judy was magic, but magic that burned the stage down. One story haunted Lucille for years. A TV director told her about a shoot in the 1970s, set to start at 5 a.m. The crew was ready, lighting, camera, makeup, everyone waiting. But the hours crawled by, 5, 6, 7, noon, and still no Judy. Finally, she appeared at 2 p.m., radiant and apologetic. And when she sang, the room melted. Her performance was pure brilliance, 30 flawless minutes that reminded everyone why she was born a star. But just when they thought the magic would last, Judy sighed, said she was too tired to continue, and walked off the set. The next day, 3 crew members were fired because the delay destroyed the budget. Lucille wasn't angry out of jealousy. It was frustration born from survival. She knew Hollywood chewed women up the moment they slipped, and she'd worked too hard to stay standing. Watching Judy waste her gift while others paid the price cut deep. At a private dinner, Lucille said it loud and clear. Talent doesn't excuse destruction. And about Judy, she added, someone always got destroyed. She never confronted Garland, but she also never worked with her again. Judy Garland wasn't evil on purpose, but the chaos she left behind was real, painful, and unforgettable. Then came Ava Gardner, the stunning woman Lucille once described as savage behind the skin. What kind of person could make Lucille say she enjoyed hurting people? That person was Ava. Her beauty was legendary, but Lucille claimed there was something fierce beneath it. Beauty laced with cruelty, the kind of danger that hides behind a smile. Their clash didn't come from a simple disagreement. It was born out of Ava's hunger for dominance. Lucille witnessed it herself one afternoon in the mid-1960s at an MGM wardrobe fitting. A nervous young assistant presented Ava with a freshly steamed gown. The only flaw? A tiny softened seam. Most stars would have ignored it, but Ava turned it into a show of power. She stared the poor girl down and said slowly, "Don't bother fixing it. You can't fix incompetence with more incompetence." The entire room froze. The assistant's hands shook, her face red with embarrassment, while Ava's lips curled into a satisfied smirk. Lucille, standing nearby, felt sick watching it happen. Later, she told a friend, Ava didn't make mistakes, she made victims. But it didn't stop there. At a fancy Hollywood cocktail party, someone casually mentioned Lucille's name in a conversation. Without missing a beat, Ava smirked and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh, the washed-up clown, she's still working?" The crowd gasped, but Ava just laughed and sipped her drink like it was all part of the show. Her cruelty wasn't impulsive. It was smooth, deliberate, and sharp as glass. Lucille believed Ava's beauty was her disguise. It blinded people from seeing the person behind it. She once said, if she hadn't been beautiful, no one would have tolerated who she truly was. And that's how it stayed. The two women never made peace. Ava's beauty became part of Hollywood legend, but Lucille's memory of her hardened into pure disgust. Even years later, whenever Ava's name came up in an interview, Lucille would mutter under her breath, "People have no idea what she was behind that face." Then came Bette Davis, the powerhouse Lucille Ball once claimed could cut people for sport. Everyone in Hollywood admired Bette's talent, her precision, her control, but Lucille saw something darker behind the genius. She once whispered to a friend, "Why does she enjoy hurting people so much?" With Bette, there was no warm-up, no charm. It was sharp hostility from the very first moment. Their most infamous run-in happened at a star-studded industry dinner in the mid-1960s. Lucille was seated just a few tables away when Bette suddenly unleashed on a young waiter who'd brought her the wrong wine. The room went dead silent as Bette hissed, "Do you even know how to read a label, or is that beyond you?" Her voice dripped with venom, and even the most seasoned producers looked down at their plates, terrified to move. The poor waiter kept apologizing, trembling as he tried to fix the mistake. But Bette didn't let up. She dragged it out, enjoying every second of his humiliation, like it was a scene from one of her movies. Lucille sat frozen, shocked by how cruel it was. Not an accident, not a bad day, but pure, calculated malice. Later that night, Bette caught Lucille's stare from across the room and raised her wine glass with a smirk, like it was all a game. Lucille didn't react. She'd already seen everything she needed to see. After that night, Lucille confided to a close friend, "Crawford was cold, but Bette, Bette enjoyed the wound. That single difference to her made Bette far more dangerous. Lucille had endless respect for real talent. She worshipped it, but she couldn't stand when people used that power to crush those who didn't have any. She once said, "Greatness should protect people, not break them." And that belief shaped how she saw Bette for the rest of her life. The two women moved through the same Hollywood circles but stayed worlds apart. Whenever Bette was honored in retrospectives or award shows, Lucille always declined any chance to appear alongside her. No fake smiles, no rehearsed stories. Lucille wanted nothing to do with the woman she called Hollywood's sharpest blade. Even decades later, she couldn't forgive that kind of cruelty hidden behind glamour. Then came Zsa Zsa Gabor, the woman Lucille Ball once described as fake down to the bone. Just hearing her name made Lucille laugh, not out of amusement, but disbelief. She wasn't jealous or intimidated. She simply couldn't stand how unreal Zsa Zsa seemed. Lucille didn't mind confidence or flash, but what she despised was fakery so thick it drowned out any real person underneath. To Lucille, Zsa Zsa wasn't just dramatic. She was a performance. Every smile, every compliment, every toss of the hair felt scripted, like she was acting even off camera. Lucille used to say Zsa Zsa treated people like props in her own private movie. Her disgust toward her started one night at a charity gala in the late 1960s. The press went wild when Zsa Zsa arrived, draped in diamonds, wrapped in fur, smiling like she owned the room. Cameras flashed as she posed with that perfect tilt of her chin, soaking up every second of attention. But the second the photographers packed up, the mask dropped fast. A kind volunteer tried to guide her to her seat, and Zsa Zsa snapped, "I don't sit with peasants." Instead of simply correcting the young volunteer, Zsa Zsa leaned in close, her smile dripping with sugar, and whispered, "Sweetheart, you touch my coat again, and I'll make sure you never work an event in this town again." The girl froze on the spot, her face pale as marble, while Zsa Zsa strutted off like she'd just delivered a compliment instead of a threat. Lucille felt her stomach twist. She said Zsa Zsa gave that warning like it was part of her act, sweet tone and all. Later that night, Lucille couldn't hold it in. She vented to a trusted friend, shaking her head as she said, "Nothing about her is real. Not the accent, not the elegance, not even the kindness." To Lucille, fake kindness was worse than open cruelty. It fooled people, wrapped the poison in charm, and made the act look genuine. And that's exactly what made Zsa Zsa Gabor so dangerous in Lucille's eyes. Lucille used to say that a fake person could charm the world while stabbing it in the back with a smile. And the wildest part, Zsa Zsa never dropped the act. Even decades later, when she famously slapped that Beverly Hills police officer in 1989, Lucille didn't even flinch. She just sighed, looked at the TV, and said, "There she is, the real one." To Lucille, that moment proved everything she'd always believed. Zsa Zsa wasn't just playing a role. She was the role, a walking performance that blurred the line between glamour and menace. Lucille never forgave her, not because of jealousy or rivalry, but because she hated masks, the kind that smiled while doing harm. To her, the most chilling kind of evil wasn't the loud kind. It was the one that smiled sweetly while twisting the knife. That false warmth, that fake innocence, that's what haunted Lucille Ball the most. By the time Lucille Ball reached the later years of her life, the sparkle of Hollywood didn't blind her anymore. It burned her eyes. She'd seen the glamour, the gossip, the glory, and the greed up close. After decades in the spotlight, Lucille carried stories she rarely spoke of, encounters that left scars deeper than anyone realized. She had built her empire through grit and laughter, but behind those perfect punchlines lived memories that still chilled her to the bone. She often said Hollywood was like a magic trick, beautiful to watch, but brutal once you saw the wires holding it up. To fans, she was the queen of comedy, the smiling redhead who could turn chaos into charm. But behind the scenes, Lucille was something far rarer, a woman who dared to see people as they really were. In her quiet moments, she reflected on those 7 names she once called truly evil. Some haunted her with their cruelty, others with their chaos or deceit. But all of them reminded her how fragile goodness could be in a world built on performance. She'd seen talent used like a weapon, beauty turned into manipulation, and fame used to destroy rather than inspire. Lucille believed true power wasn't about fame. It was about kindness, discipline, and honesty. You can have all the fans in the world, she once told a friend. But if you lose your soul trying to keep them, you've already failed. That was the truth she clung to, even as Hollywood kept spinning its illusions. What made her different wasn't just her success, it was her strength to stay real in a town obsessed with pretending. While others played games of power and ego, Lucille built something lasting. Her legacy didn't come from lies or fear. It came from love, laughter, and hard work that never stopped. Even after all she'd seen, Joan's cold perfection, Judy's heartbreaking chaos, Ava's cruel beauty, Bette's sharp cruelty, and Zsa Zsa's fake sweetness, Lucille never let bitterness win. She learned from each one. She learned that not every star shines from light. Some glow from fire that burns everyone near them. But she refused to become one of them. That was her power, the choice to stay kind, even when kindness wasn't fashionable. Friends close to her said that in her final years, Lucille became quieter, more reflective. She'd laugh when old stories came up, but rarely went deep into the dark ones. "Some things," she said once, "you don't need to relive. They already took enough the first time." Yet, she still shared her truth with those who'd listen, not out of spite, but as a warning, a reminder that fame without heart is nothing but noise. To the world, she left a gift, laughter that never fades. Every rerun, every smile, every joke still carries her spirit, the real Lucille, the one who fought through cruelty with grace and grit. She turned pain into art and built a world that made people feel joy instead of fear. That was her revenge against the darkness she'd seen. She chose to shine brighter. So, what do you think? Was Lucille right about those women? Were they villains hiding behind velvet curtains? Or just broken souls crushed by the same system that created them? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And if you loved uncovering the hidden truths behind Hollywood's golden age, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more jaw-dropping Hollywood secrets, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. There's always more to uncover, more stories buried under the glitter and lights. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the brightest smiles hide the darkest stories. See you in the next video.